Live just about now. Evening, everyone. We should be live. Give us a comment, give us a hello, give us a like, give us a heart, give us something nice. Just to say.
When it pops up, I'll do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you know what? I got myself all ready beforehand. I got it up on my phone. I, pressed the live button. I did this and did that. We've got some people joining us now, so I know we're definitely live. But sorry. Good evening, everyone. We are live now, live in YouTube and also the Secret Wealth Project. It's another Facebook Live / YouTube live broadcast of Never Mind the Buy Box, which is our weekly Amazon chat show kind of discussion where we talk about everything Amazon. And this evening I am joined by Luke Dugan. John's joined us. Good evening, John. Evening, Luke. How are you?
Good, I'm good. I'm still trying to get used to this 2 hour, ahead of time thing. It's 9 o'clock here, so normally, where I used to be in bed by not I used to be going to bed at 9:30. So now I'm having to sort of adjust my life, I guess. And it's not just for this. There's things that people want to do in the evenings, and like at 7 o'clock or something, and I've clearly got to allow that. So yeah, I'm getting used to doing sort of 9 o'clock starts for things.
But I think generally, I mean, I could be wrong, obviously, but, I've never been to Lithuania. I've never been to that part of the world, but I've obviously been to parts of Central Europe and places like that. When you live in those type of countries, I always assume that they live life a little bit later than we do anyway. So they socialize a lot later in the day or in the evening. Is that right?
It's hard to tell. On the weekends and stuff, yeah, it's open to quite late. And I looked at the times for things, just like on the boards, and there was quite a lot of 4 a.m. finishes. And maybe I'm just getting old, but I was like, not a massive amount of places finish at close at 4. There are the odd late night bars or whatever you want to, but not like the majority. So I think it is. I know that there are countries in Europe that do that. And outside here right now, it's rammed. It's really busy, so it's not like it's. But I am in a city, so I've got to. You got
to adapt. You got to adapt, and you're living in a thriving cosmopolitan city. You can't be in bed at 9 o'clock, Luke.
No. 9:40.
9:40, absolutely. So let's say hello to a few people. Got loads of people jumping on. Fahana says, looking forward to it. Oh, I think she said that earlier. I think that was a comment. Powell says, hi. John says, good evening. Mache says, thumbs up. Hello. So who else has joined us? Fran, Chi-Man. Someone's given lots of loves. I don't know who it is. Sean's oh, it's Matt Webley. He's given us lots of love. There we go. Yeah, guys, if you could all do that, can you all just push your hearts? Because what happens is it kind of pushes out the Facebook notification. It lets people know that we're live. We simultaneously broadcast between Facebook and YouTube as well. And a few people have said, because we've only been doing it a couple of weeks, well, we've been doing Never Mind the Buy Books for nearly a year now. Actually, I meant to message Matt Webley and Karen and let everyone, and you as well, Luke, and let everyone know it's our birthday next week. We have been doing it for a year, if you can believe that, next week. That's how long we've been doing this for. Absolutely crazy. I just can't believe it's been a year since the first time that we did this. So Fran says evening all. Marcus says evening. Corin says hi all. Janet says hi guys, multitasking tonight, watching you on TV whilst wrapping presents for my daughter's 5th birthday tomorrow. Well, that's good to know. Happy birthday to your daughter. So Sean says, boom, another week closer to Q4. Absolutely. David's joined us. There's loads of you jumping on. Caitlin, sorry. Hello. Matt says hi. Arsenal's joined us. Wow, birthday drinks. LOL. Yeah, definitely. So what's been up with you then, Luke? Because obviously we just got on and we are going to talk about Amazon, but I thought it was quite interesting what you were saying, because it's all part of you living in Lithuania. You've adopted the laptop kind of lifestyle. It's your business that's, kind of fueled you and allowed you to be able to do this. You're new to the area. So what did you do this week to see the area?
What have I done this week? Well, you know what? I went for a hot air balloon ride. I guess it's
most people would like take a walk around the city, but not our Luke. No, he takes a hot air balloon in, travels in style to see the city.
And it was actually really, really like gentle, like it was almost like you weren't, it didn't feel like you were really moving or anything. It just felt like it was sort of, obviously you can see you're up in the sky, but there was no like, it was just, it felt like a bit like VR, because there was no movement of anything. Well, it's not going to be any movement, but it just felt like so still. That like the sort of scenery was just like VR or something, but of course it wasn't. And it was great. And I took my GoPro and all that kind of thing, and so I've got some cool videos. But the only thing I need to do now is obviously get some footage together, because I want to do a nice video at some point. Like a month in Lithuania or something, just to give people like a little bit of a even if it's not a place that they want to come, it gives them an idea of maybe that's something they want to do at some point, on their journey or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it kind of leads in nicely to some of the subjects that we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking prep centres. We're going to be talking VAT registration. Obviously, generally, any other questions that you've got for either myself or Luke tonight, pop them in the comments. I've just read Matt Webley's one, and I'm not sure where right, about the hot air balloon. I've got it. He said he would have pooped himself.
Yeah, a lot of people I've said that I'm doing it. I've said exactly the same thing. It was easy. It was
I just don't like anything. I always say to Matt, look, if we ever go to, Matt's been to Vegas, but I've never been to Vegas. I've just got this real fear about like hot air balloons and helicopters and everything like that. And don't get me wrong, I do like it, kind of adventurous stuff, sort of. But I always say to him, if we ever go anywhere like that, don't ever surprise me with a hot air balloon trip or a helicopter ride over the Grand Canyon. I'm not interested. It just doesn't appeal to me in any way.
I've had Vegas, but I haven't done the Grand Canyon or the helicopter.
Yeah,
but, helicopters are quite. Well, I mean, statistically,
they're dangerous. Helicopters.
Yeah, they are more dangerous than I think people think. Obviously, if they were that dangerous, they wouldn't be allowed to fly. But yeah.
Well, yeah, not for me. My feet stay firmly on the ground, most definitely. So even Matt said, Matt and I are vibing tonight. He's like, Vegas is awesome, but wouldn't go in a helicopter though. Definitely. Simona's joined us. Evening, Simona, and Corin's given you some hearts, and I imagine that's down to the hot air balloon trip. So how's it been? How's the week, or couple of weeks since we spoke to you last?
How's things going with Amazon and stuff? Is that what you're sort of asking?
Yeah, so how's things going with Amazon? Obviously, we've been experiencing a little bit of a quiet time, but I think certainly, I'm just trying to get my dates. The last week seems to have picked up a little bit. I think it's all very weather related. I mean, unless you've obviously spoken to people in the UK.
I think look at the weather in the UK because I want to know.
It's horrible.
Know like what's going on for like purchasing habits a little bit. So I'll look at the week. I'll go on a Monday and look what the week's going to have or something for Vera, which is where I'm from. So just to get a bit of an idea. Well, for me, Amazon actually has been pretty solid this month. Last month, like a quieter month. And this month is like already 50% up on last month. Last month was quiet, so fair enough. It's up 50%, which is like half of last month. Get what I mean? But yeah, it's going exactly as I expected or anticipated anyway.
I think I've seen a real mixed bag of talking to people. There's either been people that have been, oh my God, it's absolutely dead. What have I done? Why have I got myself into this crazy Amazon kind of business? I've seen a few people thriving, seen people giving kind of solid results. I'd say definitely in the solid kind of camp myself. I wouldn't say it's anything mad to shout out about, but it definitely feels like it's busier than July, most definitely. But I think with the weather and the hot weather and everything that goes on, it makes people very lethargic, because obviously last week it was like super, super hot, like unbearably hot. Me and Matt, oh my God, we had like a party weekend. We did a double nighter out Friday night and out Saturday night, two different 40th birthday parties. I don't know how we did it. I don't know how I'm sat here, to be perfectly honest. But what was interesting, speaking to people generally, there was the first party we went to, I suppose, and the second one was quite a lot of self-employed people. And a lot of people were actually saying, do you know what? I haven't worked this week. Just it's been too hot. Taking the week off of work, decided to spend it with the kids, you know, doing this, doing that, because it's just can't concentrate, too hot. I mean, now's the time that we would normally see people going away on holiday and people spending time with their families, and because the kids are off school anyway. So I just wonder a little bit of that has kind of kicked in, and maybe we're seeing more kind of consistent sales in August than we ordinarily would have done, obviously, because there's more people here than there would normally be.
You know, the way I sort of, well, I don't know if I have a complete actual strategy as such, but you know, I know that I'll always know that July and August, something will be a bit quieter, even if it's not that much, or it might be, you know, sometimes it'd be more, sometimes it'd be less. So the way that I've done it over the years is that I will maximize the months I can maximize, like Q4, you know, so it's basically from next month all the way to Q4 and any other months I can utilize, which is what we've done. So that, you know, I almost don't care what happens in specific months like a January or, you know, like an August. It could almost be zero, you know, in my eyes, because, well, that's a little bit just to cover some costs, but, you know, but I try to, you know, if I could do 10 times whatever in Q4, doing, you know, 1.5 or 2, you know, whatever in August, it is kind of, you know, becomes almost obsolete. And I know it's easy done as well, you know, obviously, if you're at different parts of your journey, you sometimes got to, you know, if you've got to pay a VA or you got to pay for services as well, fair enough. But I like to think of it like that, because then it just takes a bit of pressure off as well. And if you do, you know, it's been really hot here as well. So I think it's been hot the whole of Europe. You know, it's been 30 degrees here. So in the afternoon, it has been difficult. You know, definitely when the sun comes around to where I am, it's all, you know, it's just heating up the building, and haven't been able to work. And so I have sort of like taken, not time off as such, but I've sort of just cut back a little bit in late afternoon towards the evening. But yeah, because I know what the bigger plan is. That's how I see it. I'll look at all the, you know, the bigger picture, and so it doesn't really matter these little
lumps and bumps,
little things that happen here and there. You know, even if it's 1 or 2 weeks, even if it's a month. More looking at like, you know, 12 months, 15 months, 2 years, 3 years, and kind of going like that.
Actually, that's a really interesting point. I'm going to get on answer some questions. I see we've had some questions already come through, but that's a really interesting point. I wonder when, and I'm kind of throwing this out there actually, not only to Luke, but anyone that's watching in the comments as well, because I don't remember this point in my business, and obviously you're well past it as well, Luke, but when is that moment when you can actually look back and kind of take heed what you've achieved? And you know, what is it, a year? Do we look at it as a year? But it will often take anywhere between 6 months, 3 to 6 months really to get going. So is 18 months a good point to look at your business and say, in reality, this is what a full year would be like now?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think
it's quite interesting. So I wasn't sure, because I was having this. I was speaking somewhere earlier, and I was having this kind of discussion where we talked about this particular person's first year in business, who's done incredibly well for their first year in business, but they've had a much better I think they first started the business around October last year. So, and they're going to be doing very high figures for their first year in business. But there's a chance that they might make a very good, milestone in their business if that person looked at their business as, from January to December this year, as opposed to their first year in business.
I'll always pretend my years are January to December. Clearly, the year end and all that that's not that. But so I've just done my year end. Obviously, it's like 9 months after. So the period ended last year, and then goes back to 2018. And I look at the figures, and I'll be like, what? And I'll be like, that's all I was doing. You know, like even now, I'm like, that wasn't massive. I mean, it's far enough away, but it wasn't massively far away. But I do think that I don't know. I looked at it and I thought, is that all I did? And I was like, I almost thought the accountant mucked up. I was like, no, that can't be right, because it's like the turnover doesn't look high enough. I was like, and I went through it. I was like, yeah, no, maybe it was. So I did start noticing that, you know, it can take longer to actually. I sort of forgot where I thought I was drifting away out of the conversation here, but it can take longer to identify exactly what's going on in terms of, does it take 6 months to see some results, or 8 months? I think you can get really great results quite quickly if you build up good traction. But I'd always, yeah, looking at, I forget where I'm going with this, but yeah, I always look from January to December as my year. That's probably why when I actually look at my year-end figures and they're not falling across those periods properly, it does, you know. So again, like a lot of people I know as well, like sometimes look at their year-end and be like, oh, but this is different to my yearly end.
Yeah.
Not really, but they start to wonder, like, are they making mistakes? Is something wrong? You know. And I always say like that happens as well. So almost you have to just treat them as separate things.
Well, I think in this business in particular that it's all these kind of decisions that you kind of go through that make the difference in this business and give you step ups, because I don't think anyone in this business, I mean, yeah, obviously I'm sure there are people that have done this, but certainly in my experience, certainly in the experience that I seem to speak to, is people don't tend to in this business. And I think it's really important to point this out, you know, go like this in this business. I think what happens is you tend to go like that and then plateau. Then you make a change in your business, you make a decision, or there's something that happens like at Q4 or something like that, and it gives you a boost up. And then it takes you like to the next level. Then you kind of plateau again. Then you might make another decision, or there might be another influencing factor in the business. And you tend to do that. I don't know if this business really goes like that when you're building it. It seems to plateau and step more than anything else.
That's why, you know, that's why I looked at, but it's not that you haven't got the right strategy sometimes, or you're not doing the right thing. It just takes time for it to get there. So like, I'll look back at some of my figures from the other periods, like I just said, and I'll be like, is that all I was doing? But in my mind, there was no difference, not really, in what I was actually implementing to the actual results. But it obviously did it to me at the time. It was fine. It was, you know, I was doing what I could see that, you know, I was doing whatever, and it was giving me the results. But looking back, I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing exactly the same now, and it's like 3, 4, 5. And I know there's obviously there's certain circumstances which have made it, you know, easier. But it's far greater than just for that specific reason. And it does take, you know, many months of track. So that's why I look at everything as a year, because if you start looking at things as a month, you might be like, I was halfway in them. Oh, I'll leave this month. I won't worry. You know, like, I'll start next month. You know, you can, if you start doing that, but then you might do that a couple of times in a year. And if you start thinking of it as a year, you haven't got like, oh, I'll have the rest of the month off, or, you know, whatever, or I haven't done much this month, because the whole year is your month. So you might get started now, because it's going to take you that long to start seeing change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, your eyes are going to see the change more than what's already being changed within that is non-tangible. It's kind of like,
yeah, definitely. And I think also in this business as well, consistency is absolutely key. And I see a lot of people posting figures and a lot of people posting screenshots about, I've achieved, you know, my best ever day. And absolutely, by the way, I'm not bagging on that or anything. Like, you should do that. I think it's really important for growth, really important for setting your goals, to be able to celebrate your goals. And what better way to post a screenshot in a group of like-minded people who are going through the same thing as you, to have people congratulate you and celebrate those goals. It's not boasting or anything like that, but it's recognizing what you've achieved in your business. But what I would also say at the same time is, you know, £500 days, £1,000 days, things like that are fantastic. But I would rather certainly see someone achieve £100 a day every day for a 30-day, you know, a 30-day period in order to achieve that level of consistency, because that's what we're talking about, that continuity, that level of consistency before you take the step up. You're almost building a foundation, as opposed to, you know, bitty days here, there, and everywhere, which people tend to get when either new stock lands or something like that. So go for consistency, guys. You know, that's the most important thing, and you only get consistency by regularly sending stock in. I always say I'd rather see people send in 1 box a week every single week without fail, as opposed to 2 boxes here, 5 boxes 3 weeks later. If you can try and get into that level of consistency, then that is only going to help you kind of achieve that level of consistency. And then when you go through something like a Q4 or make an outsourcing decision in your business, you can experience that bump up and, you know, take yourself to the next level. That's my two cents worth anyway.
And what I've also like found is that if you see things as bigger chunks, it could be that you got 2 years, or you do like a year and a half. So I could be focusing on next year, even though we still got the rest of this year, because pretty much everything that's going to happen for the rest of the year is sort of there. It's in the works. There's not much more, you know, actioning things or changing anything. It's more going to be focusing on almost next year now. So I'm starting to expand on that. And if you also do that across the other areas of your business, and an example could be, you know, when you analyze a deal and you're like, you know, you could be like, oh, that's £1. Oh, that's not very good. I can't do much with £1. Maybe I'll get some like a chocolate bar or something, and like, you know, or something like that. So to you, £1 represents not a great deal, you know, a product. But then like I would be like, okay, well, if I can sell 40 a month, you know, let's say I can sell 40 a month. Let's say, okay, well, I might be able to sell that for 3 months. So that's just given, you know, and now you'd be like, oh, actually, how much is that? You know, like you're gonna, oh, what can I do with that? I can go and visit friends. I can go for dinner and drinks. So it starts becoming, you know, if you start looking at everything a little bit broader, and a little bit more of a larger range, I think opportunities almost present themselves that others don't see. So you're able to, and the decision can become a good decision. And if you do that across, so I kind of do that across a lot of things. And if I can go, you know, if I sell those 10 products, which let's say even now I'm like, no, not very good products, not very good products, not very good products. You know, it's not going to make me much money in a month. But if I go, okay, well, what would that make me in 5 years or 2 years? And I'm like, that's £2,000. I'm like, why am I worrying? Why am I getting upset about making £2,000? If I've got plenty of capital in the bank, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know,
no, I get what you're saying. You may as well be turning it over.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't, you know, if as I know, the data tells me exactly, you know, as long as I trust and I know what I'm doing, and I'm just making like a punt or something, then why am I worrying? Because the bigger picture still presents £2,000 or whatever the outcome is, which is, in anyone's world, that's still good, you know, and it creates the opportunity by doing that across a lot of areas, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. And that would lead us very nicely. But I want to talk about the VAT registration thing, because I know a lot of people are going through this at the moment. Oh, do you like my pen? My mermaid pen. Actually, I hope my daughter's not watching this, because she bought me this pen, but now she's confiscated it's her pen. So she'll be like screaming at the screen or the laptop saying, that's my pen. Yeah, I want to talk about VAT registration. A lot of people seem to be going through this at the moment, and kind of struggling with the transition a little bit. But let's answer some of these questions. Matt says he would. I'm assuming he is talking about the helicopter. Simona says Grand Canyon by helicopter is awesome. Trend Kika, that's the name that I've got coming up on YouTube.
Yeah, it's YouTube, wouldn't it? Yes.
Yeah, but who else? Oh, is that Gabrielle? No. Oh, I haven't got, oh no, because it's being asked on YouTube, so I'm looking for it on Facebook. So hello, Luke and Nat. My VA is sourcing some good deals. However, on some websites, I'm noticing that the website has hidden charges, which makes my deals unprofitable. How do you get around this? So not sure what you mean by that. If you mean hidden charges, like
charges. I mean, I know that sometimes the minimum is like 50, 60, 70 pounds. But that's the only hidden charges I would say that I'm aware of. Or
possibly, well, no retail site should be charging VAT. It should be a combined price.
With add VAT on at the end, I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, just let us know what you mean by that, because the only hidden charge I can possibly think of by the time you go through it is a delivery charge. And if it is a delivery charge, then there's a couple of things that you can do. You can either tell your VA the next day to try and source some more deals from that particular site to either get you over the delivery charge limit, or you can have a little spreadsheet for deals that you might want to buy later until you've built up a bit of a combined cart value to be able to do it. But obviously, if you do that, you do risk the deal going out of stock. So the most sensible thing, if it's a delivery charge, is to, you know, try and factor that delivery charge into your profit, which I think you're obviously saying that that's not working for you. So building up a cart total or building up the value of your cart, I think, is probably going to be the most sensible option if it's delivery we're talking about. I don't know if you've got anything else to add to that, Luke.
I would just say put it onto a future dated spreadsheet, because, you know, you can, a lot of these deals, you can find the date that the deal ends. So if you just try to, you know, if you know where to look on certain websites and you know it's there for 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever, you've got that long to basically find more products, you know, that should fall within that same sale period under those products, and just build up a cart that way. And even if you keep the data, you know, it's better to keep data like that for the future. Even if the sale disappears in 6 months or 4 months or 3 months, when you're a bit more established and you're able to, you know, maybe you're comfortable buying like more units because maybe you're not at the moment to get over that limit. Now you're like, oh, well, I can just go and check and take the same products again. And maybe they're going to, you know, you'll get used to like sale period cycles that they always come back around where the same kind of deal appears on the same product throughout the year. So the data is still quite, you know, you can still use that data at some point in the future anyway.
Yeah, and I also have preferred sites that I prefer to buy from. So if obviously if it's a deal specific to that site, I always make sure I check other websites to see if it's available on a different website with either a cheaper delivery or a lower delivery threshold or something like that. I mean, I often do that with, say, Boots versus Superdrug, but I tend to do it for a slightly different reason. So if there's a particular product that I know I want to buy from, probably a replenishable on Boots, and it's the same price on Superdrug, I tend to buy it on Superdrug as opposed to Boots, even though I think Boots has got a better loyalty card system. I tend to buy it more on Superdrug because there's no limits on Superdrug, really. But, you know, Superdrug's got a good loyalty program as well, but Boots, I think, is definitely the best value one. I actually made a YouTube video about that today, which hopefully Matt will put up on the YouTube channels hopefully in the next 24 hours. Make sure you watch that one. I think that's you know, not blowing my own trumpet, I think it's quite a good one. So yeah, let us know if that's what you meant. And then next question is, because John's talking about the Big Dipper, how hard is sourcing? This is from Gabrielle. Or Gabrielle, I can't see the picture actually, it might be Gabriel, sorry. How hard is sourcing? How many profitable products do you typically find in a month? 1, 2, 0, 5. Talking about wholesale, well, Luke and I don't really specialize in wholesale as much. I suppose I can only give you from an OA point of view. I tend to do my sourcing in 2-hour blocks. So that's when I do my sourcing sessions. And if I get on a good roll with kind of replenishables or something like that, I mean, in a 2-hour period, I could easily pick up anywhere up to, you know, 30 deals, something like that. It really does, you know, it depends how well the deals are flowing, if there's offers on, you know, that type of thing.
I actually looked at how much I spent in wholesale in 6 weeks, 25,000 or 28 grand.
Oh, well, shut my mouth then.
I was like, oh, maybe I need to find some more wholesalers, because I pretty much used one and a little bit of another one. I was like, come on, you do better than that. You know, let's like broaden your horizons a bit. And I was like, how much have I spent? I wonder. And because I was like, you know, I want to try to transition even further, I guess. And I was like, oh, actually, it's still pretty decent. But I'd say, you know, the way I do it, though, a lot of the products I'm already selling anyway. So, you know, they're not new products. So it's very difficult to, you know, the products that I will always go for is products that I can keep selling again and again. So when you do find that product, it's not a one-off product that maybe you're, you know, like, if you were just having to find a new one every day or every month, it would be quite difficult. Mm-hmm. But there are lots of products out there where you can find, you know, maybe 2 for every 5 or 2 in every 10. where you can end up just basically build up a good list of products you can go back and source, and again, looking at the bigger picture, 3 years down the line, just go and, you could just rely on them. And you won't have to even worry about potentially, finding sourcing hard, because you can always have that as like a foundation. This is sort of how I instill it. But I'd say I could probably find, in a day, 6 hours, maybe 30 to 40 if I hadn't already, sold it. Obviously, I'm selling a lot of them now, so it's difficult to say. But I can find new ones.
And this is really interesting, actually, because I know it was Hayden that posted in your group about something, because I know you've been kind of working with Hayden, and he said something about that he had this kind of epiphany in this business where all of a sudden now he can see deals everywhere, and Hayden's relative, I don't know if he's watching tonight, I'm not sure. I'm sure he will catch a replay at some point, but and I remember commenting on it and saying that, because I say this to everyone, this is definitely my phrase, that it's like the light switches on when you're sourcing. When you start out, and I have this conversation with lots and lots of people, it's like they can't find deals. They can't find them. They can't find anything that works, nothing with profit. They just can't find anything whatsoever. And then you've got us sat here saying, in 2 hours we can find
it's like,
30 deals. It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? It sounds like we're making it up, kind of thing.
That's the way we sort of say it.
Yeah, it sounds very blasé, but what actually happens, and I think it's totally a mindset thing, it's totally a mindset adjustment with this business, is you don't know this business works until you know it works. It's as simple as that. You have to kind of not even you have to kind of believe that it works. You have to see it with your own eyes, but you can't see it until you're actually doing it. And it was really interesting because I saw this epiphany kind of post that Hayden posted when he said about, when I first started, I couldn't find anything. Now I can just see deals everywhere. And that's what it's like. It's like the same. Sorry, I'll let you talk in a sec, Luke. It's like, when you're going to buy a car, and you never see that car anywhere before, and then you decide to buy that specific car, that specific make, that specific color, and then you see it everywhere. That's exactly what it's like.
That's fine.
You carry on.
I had to say right at that point, so now it doesn't. I like saying, the products that you probably be able to find is like, I went to Smith's and I found £2.10 on a £20, like Power Rangers figures. Like, you can find those kind of things here and there, and it's like, but and you start wondering, like, well, that's not gonna. How am I going to find hundreds of these products? And then I got to go and do it all again tomorrow or whatever. I know it is like that, and I was like that. I think I learned from no one, but basically the way that I did it is I learned everything not to do, so there was nothing left for me to see. It's like, in a way, I did the opposite of what a lot of people were doing. Instead of trying to find the best things that work, I just found everything that didn't work. Which you can't, that's another solution to the problem. If you, in a way, you do everything and you find the worst things that don't, all the things that don't work and the worst of the bunch, then you make sure you never do any of that. And then you just work with what you can. And then over time, that will mature into, the best things that you can do, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to find your niche. You've got to find what works for you in this business 100%. And it's all about trial or error. And Luke's got it absolutely right in the sense that you don't know what works for you until you don't know what works for you. We're talking a lot about that. You seem to be talking about you don't know what this works and don't know what that works until it works. But it's true. Believe us, guys, 100%. So Sue says she has blanked up, got suspended, deactivated. I've spoken to Sue this week, feeling foolish. Sue, please don't feel foolish. It's something. Amazon is, the hardest platform to sell on in the world. Sorry, not the hardest. Sorry. It's the most, strictest platform to sell on in the world. All it takes potentially can be sometimes, something wrong on your account or a tiny slip up or something like that. But rest assured, you will get it sorted. It's all a learning curve. It's nothing to feel foolish about. We've all been there. We've all done, we've all got the t-shirt when it comes to selling on Amazon and being through most of these experiences. So please don't feel foolish. I know we talked about it in the week, and I think I did also suggest that you contact Karen, and I can't remember, but another good reason to have like BuyBot Pro suspension safeguard or OAD, because it's obviously included in, it's just having that little bit of insurance. So I don't know if you have had a chance to speak to Karen. When it comes to suspensions, they're very, very specialist, and I would definitely speak to the expert if it was me, and that is Karen, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I have it. So I have the suspension safeguard.
Yeah. It's just that little bit of insurance, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's not an insurance. I don't want to confuse anything. It's not an insurance policy. But if the worst were to happen, then you know that you've got a trusted source to be able to confide in, get advice as to what the next step for you to do during the suspension process. But it's very niche and it's very specialist. And that's why there's not loads of information out there, because, you know, you do have to handle it in a certain way. And, you know, that's why we always refer anyone to Karen. I know John's already done that. All right, but don't feel bad. It happens, but it is remedied. You know, it is. You can get it remedies. Don't worry. So Matt says something about what's the tax implications of living in Transylvania and selling there, Luke. I take it it's just the same as living here, isn't it?
Currently, it's still in the it's still in the transition EU. So there's no, until the end of the year. There's no visa, no any, you know, there's none of that anyway. So yeah, I don't know.
No, that's fine.
I'm not going to worry.
Yeah. So Janet says she's been selling since July, and the last few days have been the best day ever for sales. Finding that 10 p.m. is the time of my sales peak. That's interesting, because most of, you know, the big chunk of my sales tends to come from early in the morning right up until about lunchtime, going into tea time. I don't tend to have a lot of late night sales on Amazon.
The only, I mean, I do understand why you would get more sales potentially later, because if you reprice your products to your max every night, like I do, it may take, you might not make any sales in the morning because you may be, the repricing may have not got back down to that competitive buy box price where you're going to start making more sales. So as the day will go on, all of you will be competing almost back to that sort of base buy box price every day. Sometimes it could be within 10 minutes because it's really competitive listing. Sometimes it might take longer. If you're the only one left on the listing, obviously it's never going to go down because you'll just stay at the price that your max is. So I do see that there's a trend there. But I almost want it to be more consistent through the day than anything else, or try to get it to that, because that means you're not relying on any, like, I don't, you know, the way I do is I try to remove any, like, relying on certain things as much as possible, because, you know, you are in the hands of Amazon. And if you can try to tweak little things, so if you can get it, you know, let's say that it was great weather, but it was really like crappy weather after 5, well, or in the morning or whatever, and you know that you're not relying on, I need it to be, you know, rainy if it's a nice day, because you always get your sales in the morning or in the evening, and that you kind of get where I'm going with it.
Yeah,
not that it really matters in the long run, that potentially, I guess, because if people are going to buy it, they will buy it, and if you're in the buy box, then it will work out. But yeah, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we used to sell on a website, really, I suppose my distribution business before we really threw ourselves into Amazon, we used to see a lot of, oddly enough, I don't know what, we used to see a lot of sales between about 10 a.m. and about 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning, and I could only ever attribute it down to, you know, shift workers and late night workers and people that are supposed to be kind of working but, you know, or up late or night hours or whatever. But it was an interesting transition between you know, we ran both simultaneously for a couple of years. But then when we stopped with our distribution company and went more into Amazon, it was weird not waking up to lots of sales overnight, which we tended to have with our other side of the business, which, yeah, it's very rare. But I mean, I suppose saying that, because I get up most days at 5 o'clock. So for me, it is very rare to see lots of Amazon sales before 5 o'clock in the morning. They just don't.
Here as well, it's later in the day. So I'm like, oh, it's 5. Why have I not? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's actually 3. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I think the average Amazon shopper doesn't start shopping until between like 6 and 7.
Yeah, 2 in the morning. Here, I can still make yesterday, some sales in yesterday.
Yeah.
So.
Must be that Lithuanian lifestyle. Paul says, evening, howdy guys, I'm late. Don't do it again. Otherwise we're no, I'm only joking, Paul. I'm not sure who's asked this because they haven't registered. Let me find whoever asked it. Oh, it's Gavin. Hi folks. Buybot Pro data comes from Keeper. So when trying to keep costs down from the start, would working with Buybot Pro be the sensible option? And when is the Buybot Pro phone app coming out? Well, soon on Buybot Pro app. I know Matt's watching, so maybe he can lighten us a little bit more, but soon, as far as I'm aware. I think they're in the final stages of beta for that. So it'd be handy if we can get that, before the start of Q4. No pressure, Matt and Karen, but we need it for then, please. Because obviously the app's down at the moment. The app's been down for weeks. So it's, super annoying, especially if you're doing RA. I think that's why people are really, really keen to get that going. For me personally, the data keeper supplies does go through Buybot Pro. So if cost is an issue, Buybot Pro does provide the graphs. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're looking at kind of running your business pretty lean, which Luke Dugan is the king of running a lean Amazon business, then absolutely Buybot Pro. If it's one or the other, I would go with Buybot Pro because it gives you all of the features of Buybot Pro and also having the keeper data as well. Don't know if you agree with that, Luke.
Like definitely starting out, if you want to keep, I keep, I kept my, well, I didn't to start with, and then I did once I established what I was doing. But yeah, because keeping everything down, and then really, everything like Buybot Pro you need as well anyway, because of what it actually does with just giving you the profit, the breakdown in fees. Like you can't do it without almost, so you need that as a minimum anyway, and it has keeper data in it. So if you, and really that's all you need to start with. There's nothing really more that I would say that you would need. Obviously you need some sort of deal sheet potentially, some way to obviously get your products in, but in terms of the analysis, that will cover you on everything. You can there's lots of different things that you can use, but I wouldn't worry because the data is, it might be represented slightly different, but it's all there. I've looked at it, and you can use that for, you definitely as a beginner, and you want to, I think keeper's what, 20 quid or something. So if that's an issue, just stay without that.
Yeah, well, I've actually read on the comments, and Gavin actually says that he has Keeper and not Buybot Pro. So I would definitely recommend, if it's one or the other, switching, getting yourself Buybot Pro, purely because, it's not we're trying to sell Buybot Pro or anything like that. It's just, yes, Keeper does do different things, but, as you're starting out and you, for exactly what Lucas said, Buybot Pro offers so much more for people starting out, intermediate and advanced sellers anyway. But just that combination, because for me, one of the biggest mistakes new sellers always make, and this is always is getting your fees wrong. Not accounting for certain fees, and also misrepresentation of the data, of reading the graphs or something like that. Maybe not understanding, that a drop doesn't necessarily mean a sale or something like that. So having that second pair of eyes from Buybot Pro, where it's also analyzing the deal, it's giving you a potential estimated amount of sales in an actual figure form, as opposed to kind of counting the drops, but not knowing what a drop difference could be between a recalculation of the sales data as opposed to an actual sale. Whereas Buybot Pro will take that, analyze it, and it doesn't just analyze the data from the previous month. It has lots of historical data and trends and everything like that built in as well. So it's just a no-brainer for me, to be perfectly honest. If it's going to be one or the other, well, I'll definitely go that all day long. So Sue says, thanks. Karen's been very helpful as ever. I have done a good job. I think I've done a good job on my appeal, but it's not enough 3 appeals or refused. I think Karen will be the first one to tell you, Sue, that especially at the moment. I don't know anyone that's getting a suspension through on the first appeal or anything like that. Generally 3 seems to be about the magic number, but I've seen people taking it as high as 5, you know, 5 or 6. So I don't know what it is about with Amazon and suspensions, and they seem to be doing a kind of merry dance at the moment. But rest assured, 3 appeal rejections doesn't mean it's game over. So just keep trying, just keep, you know, you've really got to work out what they're looking for. But as I said, you're already speaking to Karen, so, you know, best of luck with that. So Gavin says, thanks, Matt. Keep a subscription or drop it when I get BuyBot Pro. Yeah, keep. Well, I think drop it when you get BuyBot Pro, to be perfectly honest, if it's a cost issue. If it is a cost issue. Let's just ask any other questions. So I do want to kind of talk about I want to talk about what we were going to talk about tonight. We always do this, and I think it's, you know, we're getting up to kind of 60 people watching us live now, and I think now when we first started doing this, we didn't have half as many people, so not half as many people asking questions. So me and Luke kind of talked about it this time being unrealistic in the time that we've got and what we can kind of talk about. So we always want to make sure we cover at least one major kind of subject that seems to be either in reality what's happening in Amazon this week, which, to be honest, is not much going on, you know, apart from free removals promotion ends on the 21st of August. I just wanted to get that in. So if you want to get any old inventory or stock out, make sure you do that before the 21st of August midnight. But you know, so there's not really much going on in the world of Amazon this week. But what I've been asked, and I've been asked about 3 or 4 times this week about this. So I wanted to kind of bring it up tonight and talk a little bit about the kind of transition. So it's probably going to be more for some experienced sellers, but it's good for anyone starting out to listen, because it's a kind of scary period. It's an unknown period that many people, you know, most people have not been through in that life. And that is when your Amazon business turns from being unVAT registered or non-VAT registered to being VAT registered, and what kind of impact that has on your business, because it can be a big change.
It can. And I know, well, yeah, to me, I quite like it. I actually like it. It gives you
a word, Luke.
Well, basically, if you've got to do it, find a way to like it. Like, just don't. Not that I would care normally, but you've got to love it. Otherwise, it's not, you know, otherwise it's not, if you're not going to work with it, then, you know.
Well, it comes from a place of success as well. So it shouldn't, I mean, yes, I understand it being daunted, but first of all, you've got to kind of look at it. If you are passing through the VAT barrier, generally it means that you're doing something right.
Although you can be, yeah, because obviously you could have £85,000 in turnover.
I know, I know. It's, you know, turnovers, vanity, profit, sanity, definitely.
VAT from minus, you're losing money. So
but I think one would hope that by the time that you've reached 85,000, that you would know what your kind of figures are. And
to get to 85,000, though, if you know, definitely if you've got like some slightly higher starting capital, and it happens to be like a sort of like around now or something, Q4 coming up. And like, you're almost at that number by January. As January sort of ticks over, you could be at 70,000. But oh my god, I'm just down the road.
Again, another kind of hypothetical kind of question is, I wonder what you would need, what capital you would need to start with now from zero in order to kind of guarantee to hit the VAT threshold, you know, providing you make all the right decisions. It's obviously hypothetical. I think somewhere between 5 and 10,000, possibly something like that. Starting capital
in a year, or from like now?
No, from now till the end of Q4. You know, you could bust through the. I think you could bust through the VAT.
18.
You get a calculator out.
You talk, I'll calculate.
Okay. Yeah, Luke is definitely the man to ask this question to, 100%. But yeah, it can be like it can be a very scary period, and I do understand that. And the question I certainly get asked the most about during going through this kind of VAT registration period, and we've talked about this previously in the past, is it's no good. And by the way, none of this is financial advice, disclaimer alert, just to let you know. it's no good hanging around that kind of £85,000 period, you know, once you go through the VAT registration, because you automatically lose, depending on which route you kind of go down, you know, whether you go flat rate or standard accounting or whatever. But you automatically lose overnight becoming VAT registered around 8% of the profit in your business by becoming VAT registered if you change nothing. If you look more towards, you know, going for more VAT exempt products and things like that, it's a different ballgame. I'm just talking about if you didn't change anything in your business and you went from earning £84,999 overnight to the next day, and you did that exactly the same for the next 3 months, you would probably lose about 8% of your profit in your business, somewhere around that kind of figure. So it's important that when you do get that, you kind of push through that barrier, and you can't just kind of push through it. You have to really kind of smash through it. And I'm not going to talk figures too much, but, you know, because it is, you know, a lot of people say, okay, it's 150 you need to be doing. Some people say it's 200. Some people say it's 175. But you need to get well into the hundreds in order to kind of make the difference.
100, I think, I can't remember exactly, it was years ago now. I did flat rate to start with, so it was 6.5. But even at that, 6.5 for the first year. But even that, I was doing 125,000. But I didn't know any. I was just like, register. Okay, I knew what I was doing. But I wasn't prepared for it really, and I always was on 100, so on 85, obviously. Then I went to about 120 something, 128 or something. There was not much, like, you know, that's the turnover per year kind of thing. That there wasn't much difference, and that was 50, like, was that 50 something grand over, and I'm still nowhere, like, no better off. And it was actually more annoying because you pay out like a lump sum every quarter. And then for the next 1 or 2 weeks, you have quite low cash flow. So at times it can be a hindrance, because if it happens to be like a great period for deals, let's say that the period that comes up for Q4, mine's in October. Let's say that you know, I've got to pay it on like the 7th or whatever the date is of October. And that's always been that date. So back in the day, that would have been the day to pay my thing, my VAT, and then I wouldn't have. What if there were some great deals at that time and I just couldn't buy them? And so there are things. But then I adjusted to suiting being VAT registered, which you can do very easily. But for me, it took time, and it was like it did take me 6 months, pretty much, not going in the direction. Not like it's a bad thing, because you figure out, like, you know, in a way, if it's not going backwards, it's not a bad thing, because you're now in that next phase, and as long as you're now not going backward, don't think it's a bad position.
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads us on to the other thing we were going to talk about, Prep Centre, because what I often find is VAT registration is a time when people make decisions, or they try to make decisions when maybe they shouldn't, because they feel it's this big kind of groundbreaking moment in their business. And it is, you know, like I said, it's definitely a different transition. But I certainly wouldn't be making big decisions just because on the basis of VAT registration. Now, you do need to scale after the VAT registration. And I think a lot of people, one of the things that they try and do in order to do it is they either look to outsource their sourcing at some point in order to do that, or they try and outsource their prep at this period of time. But what can happen when they go through a period of VAT registration, they're automatically losing that extra 6 to 8% or whatever. Then they've got their prep fees on top of that as well. So they might find themselves, you know, that they weren't having before. And, you know, prep's expensive at the end of the day, no matter which prep center you're with. If you are shifting a certain amount of units, it's the only increasing cost, I would say, in this business. It's not like you sign up to BuyBook Pro and it's £25 a month. You know, the more your business increases, the more you can afford services like that. With prep centers, the more your business increases, the bigger the bill's going to be. You know, it's as simple as that. So I think when people kind of make these decisions and make that kind of decision at the same time. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you shouldn't, you know, keep doing your prep, because there has to come a point with your business. We lost Luke then. I don't know where he's gone. Oh, you're back.
I've always been here.
You went off my screen. You disappeared. Yeah. I'm going to check that on the replay. But it kind of, oh, I've lost my train of thought now. But I think it was more along the lines of, I understand why people make these kind of decisions at that time, and I'm not saying don't use a prep center when you're becoming VAT registered. More of understand that this is going to happen in your business, and because you do need to push through, smash through that VAT barrier, as Lucas quite rightly said, and we all experienced it. You need to really smash through it, and one of the only ways you can smash through it is by now kind of outsourcing parts of your business in order to do it. So don't beat yourself up, people. You know, if that kind of happens to you, you just have to be aware that it's going to happen to you. And that period that we were talking about at the start, where it stays consistent, even though you, in financial terms, in turnover terms, your business you feel might be doing this, but your profit might be doing that. In reality, you're just going through that stage where you take that step up and restart that consistent process over again. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to sort of talk to Luke about during this period, because again, another question I get asked during this VAT transition period is, do I need to change my business? Do I need to change my style of sourcing? Do I need to go for faster selling items and lower ROI when I become a VAT registered seller?
I think it's more that what you sort of do when you become VAT registered, and I guess the threshold isn't not massive. To do 85 grand, you know, anyone that's new or started out would have thought that's loads. It's actually almost non-existent. It almost might as well be zero.
Was it like 6,600 a month, something like that?
I don't know. Yeah, but then all you need is one Q4, and if your Q4 is half, like 3 months away, you're almost going to be, you know, as long as you're doing it right, you're going to be close to that limit. You know, it'd be very hard to actually stretch for the year. But I see it as that you enter a bit more of an exclusive club, and you're able to get away from those more erratic actions that occur from new sellers. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people always complain about, you know, why is this like product literally just become terrible overnight almost, you know? And you, not that it doesn't happen and you have fluctuations with the prices, because you know, that's just a competitive market, but you're able to almost become like a little bit more of an executive club or group or whatever, where everyone's a little bit more established. They know what they're doing. There's no, you know, people understand. Even something as simple as just understanding their numbers better, because a lot of beginners don't, and that's why they're probably selling them for far less than they actually should be, because they think ROI, something, you know, simple as ROI. They're like, oh, I've added up all my ROIs for the month, but that's not, I haven't got that much more, that extra in my bank. It's because, well, of course, what about your costs? Like, what do you mean? I'm making 30% ROI on my product. That's my profit. I'm like, well, yeah, it is on that product, but you know, and if they're just blanket literally adding up all the ROIs on all their sales every month and going, yeah, that's my profit, I could take that out for myself, you know, just simple things like that. But when you get VAT registered as well, you've got to be so much more on it with your numbers, that I think it just becomes a little bit more of a stable market. And there are opportunities to, you know, just like, for example, toys, people that are non-VAT registered have a slightly upper hand, an upper hand on selling toys, definitely over Q4, than people who are VAT registered. Because we have to pay VAT, that, you know, if we're paying VAT, but non-VAT registered don't. But in my eyes, I go, okay, well, I could probably offset that with higher capital expenditure. I can spend more money. So if I can, you know, okay, I'll have to pretend, well, let's say that I have to take £2 less profit on £8 on like a more expensive toy to be in the same group as those people. So I know I've got to basically take a lower ROI because the people that are non-VAT registered can actually, you know, they're going to be bringing their prices down potentially because they can make more money. You kind of get what I'm saying with that. So I've got to accept that, but because I have capital and I have this other little things you can do, because I am at that level. So I have, you know, I'm able to do more volume of products to then offset those little things. So you're almost going to make it work for you when you get to that position, and eventually you should get to a point where, you know, you build up a very good understanding of where, like, what products you're selling related more to your situation than just, I'm being now VAT registered and I'm going to sell all the same stuff but just try to sell tons more. It can work, probably, you know, because in theory it can work, but I just, over time, I tried that and it didn't really work. Maybe if I had tons of, like, you know, if I had an extra 100 grand to buy stuff, fine, of course. But I ended up just tweaking it, and now I'm all, you know, now I don't see the same issues. Now I'm almost liking that I'm here because I don't have the same issues with, you know, like just like that simple thing where oh, I bought a product, but now 2 weeks later it's half the price, and I'm gonna have to break even on all. You know, it doesn't happen quite the same for me in the world I'm in, the way I'm doing mine, that it does in that. And to me, that's more of a sustainable business, because I don't have to be scared that, you know, in 2 days' time, half my listings are going to be worthless. And it starts to put your mindset into a more structured business, actual business, than making some pocket money on the side, selling some, like, couple of bits, you know, from a car or something. And it's more good. It's more, that's, you know, going through that stage.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head, because we've already kind of coined you a phrase of the way that you sell on Amazon, Luke, is definitely more sustainable. It's this kind of sustainable arbitrage model, which is, you know, is not, it is something that you do slightly differently. And for those that don't know, because obviously we were talking about in the group this week that we are launching a new project as such, which is going to offer kind of ongoing learning, ongoing motivation, ongoing support, which Luke is also going to be a part of as well, which I'm delighted to announce. I'll probably get in trouble for giving away too many kind of spoilers, but one of the first things that we are going to look at is this kind of building a sustainable arbitrage business, as opposed to let's sell as many toys as we can. And, you know, as Luke quite rightly said, it's something that he's really identified and become an expert at, in able to look at building this sustainable business, because the peaks and troughs are great. Of course they are. We all love the peaks in Q4, but when it comes to February, when it comes to July, when it comes to those quieter months, you heard Luke say it himself, that, do you know what, it was pretty consistent, it was pretty stable, but it wasn't dire, because he's built this sustainable business. There, you don't tend to have these kind of seasonal peaks and troughs, you know, as traditional arbitrage sellers do. I mean, I have something similar with kind of unique bundles, so looking at from a different point of view, where we don't see as many seasonal peaks and troughs because we're selling different products at different times, obviously, but yours is very consistent, very stable, very sustainable.
Yeah, so it's more like I can basically just, like, look at, literally, I can go and, oh, look, what month are we in? August. Okay, well, the minimum, you know, average I expect that month to be, any 1 year could be 10 grand a month, 20, whatever, you know, whatever I'm doing. But if it's a good month, let's say we're now moving into September, the same thing, slightly more demand because we're moving towards Christmas, will be, you know, on average 3 grand or 10% more. And you're able to sort of play that kind of side of things with the listings that you sell, rather than, which is more like you're putting, you know, what you need to put in the market for everyone to buy, but then obviously it's the customers, like, supply and demand at specific periods, rather than buying loads of profitable products, chucking them on, and then hoping that the listing is profitable, you know, in a month or a week, or and then trying to find the next deal tomorrow. It's like, you know, I get to a point where I was speaking to a couple of people the other day. I literally said it's almost very boring, because there's nothing to it. You just getting the same stuff last month. I'm slapping it back on Amazon, and it's like, you know, and I'm getting stuck on a bit more. And
it's not boring when you're clicking in your app and you're seeing, you know,
obviously, like,
you know, and that type of thing. But that is, I mean, without giving too much away, because I know what you like, Luke, you'll probably just, you know, stay here and talk about that forever. Well, I'm the same, obviously, as well. But this is something that we're going to be covering in depth as first part of kind of learning experience as part of the Elite Sellers Academy. And Luke is going to be joining. Well, you're going to be joining us, you know, permanently as part of the Elite Sellers Academy anyway. But in particular, you know, we're going to have a look at that, because I also think it's a really great strategy to start building and adopting in Q4 as well. So there's going to be lots of Q4 support, definitely from that point of view. So yeah, be interested to see that. Did you work out the calculation?
Oh yeah, I did. I sort of looked at 10 grand and I thought, well, if you could you'd have to have one really good month and be ungated. So
Yeah.
you have to spend 10 grand quickly in your first month being set, well, kind of now to mid-September, because obviously you need to get the stock in to be able to sell it. Then probably do something like 18 grand in your first month, so like 8,000 more, you know, nothing crazy, as long as you can get it in fast, like as soon as you can. Probably get it by the end of the year to 85 grand.
Yeah. So definitely not in the realms of, you know, and we are coming into a bit of an unknown Q4 as well. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen, but we think it's going to be an unknown Q4 from a good point of view. So hopefully, I mean, you know, we've obviously talked about it, but from a VAT registration point of view, it is something that you do need to take it in your stride. You need to kind of not worry about it, but you need to kind of, you know, plan for it a little bit more and manage your expectations, I suppose, to know that things are going to be different. And you do have to adapt your business, try different things. Because like Luke said, and I completely agree with this, that you can't just carry on the same and just kind of expect nothing to change. You do have to make adaptations to the business. You might need to look more into those VAT exempt products. You might need to lower your expectations for certain ROIs with faster selling products in order to, you know, turn your product or your products over quicker in order to, you know, what am I trying to say? Turn your products over quicker in order to compound that effect of the VAT registration a little bit more. But is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Luke?
I think, this is just my opinion, that Amazon are trying, and I can see why, are trying to, the whole inventory performance index style interface that they're trying to implement is geared towards higher volume, larger sellers, basically they want to get stock in and out, which is going to supply the demand to the customers. Tick. There's not going to clog their warehouse up. Tick. It's not going to get dusty and get lots of returns. And you're not going to, and you're starting to force away and get out all the part-timers who are doing it for a bit, you know, a bit of side money, and that clogs the system up. And it basically will put, like, you know, a part-timer in front of me, so my box isn't going to get checked in. And those products could be useful, you know, they could be stuff that sells in 5-6 months. Amazon want my stuff in because I'm going to be sending it in 1 minute or 2 minutes time. I can sell units in the next hour. All of the customers are going to be happy. Amazon make like 50 times fees than just one item from a car boot or something. Not that you can't do that, or you could add it into that business. So you can obviously layer the business. But I kind of see it that they're trying to force the hand a little bit to get people to act like basically put their business into either a more professional standing, which is you know always going to be towards the sort of higher value, higher volume turnover of a company, or or force you out, or you've got to really adapt it to a point where you're able to sort of mix the two. Anyway.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I'm going to jump down to the bottom because I've seen Matt Budd's comment about, and I do completely agree with this, is the best tip for any seller that is approaching the VAT threshold is to simply start working your margins out based as though you are VAT registered, because it can be a short, sharp shock to the system when it does happen. So thanks for that, Matt. I completely agree with that. But let's go back and visit the comments, because obviously we've been talking for a while and I just want to tie up a few things. So going back to Trend Kika, sorry, I don't know your actual name. That might be your actual name. Sorry. Just going back to that, I think they were talking about more pick and pack fees, so like your grocery delivery costs. Well, I know, so I think it was Nikkei that said about that is what I was going to suggest. Is there an option to click and collect? Because obviously that's cheaper, and also, you know, you just got to kind of factor it in, because don't know if you've been impacted by, well, presumably you have if you shop with Tesco. Tesco's limiting to only 98 items in a basket now.
I've given up any company that doesn't
work. Yeah,
like I think 99 is the low, or like 50. Any number, basically a number that's more than higher than 10. So anything like Tesco's and that, I literally don't go to Morrison's, Tesco's, Sainsbury's, as I don't even go to those anymore. Not that I could, but I just find it a bit more annoying to go there, and I'm looking for more like you said, the volume side of things. If I buy 99 at a little bit less profit, like a sell 99, to me, the profit on those 99 is far greater and more valuable than wasting my time with some of those. But not that that's for everyone, of course.
Yeah, and I also think as well, and again, you're less likely, it's more difficult, especially because now you've made the transition, obviously, to prep centre, because you can't prep your own stuff because you don't live here anymore, is the supermarkets are definitely harder to work with when you're working with a prep centre, because obviously you're not in control of your own stock. Sometimes they don't even deliver to prep centres because they won't deliver to a business address. You don't know what's going to turn up, what's going to be in stock, and all these different kind of areas. So click and collect is a really good option for that. With regards to, I know that they're not doing it at the moment because of the whole COVID-19 thing, but you used to be able to get delivery passes where you would just pay a fee for the year and have free delivery. Now, whether or not that's something the supermarkets will reintroduce again, I'm not sure. Obviously, if you already had a delivery pass, I think they just kind of stuck with it. But that could be a potential offer for the future. But Tesco charge a pick and pack fee no matter how much you spend. Absolutely. So I think they still, for click and collect, do charge a fee, but it's definitely less as well. So hopefully that's answered the question. Going back on the phone very quickly, see who asking, because I always like to make sure we identify the name as such. I think it is Gaurav. Have I missed the question? Someone says, sorry, I'm going to say someone, sorry. Are sites that you pay a monthly subscription to give you leads or wholesaler contact details worth signing up for? So, yes, definitely. If you are probably not for wholesale, I wouldn't do it for wholesale because those wholesale lists can be a bit crappy, to be perfectly honest.
Not that I've done any of it, but I want to find those wholesalers that no one finds. And if they're going to be on the list, then they're going to be terrible. That's all I can think.
Yeah. Finding wholesalers, I think, is actually relatively quite easy. You just need to kind of narrow down what you're looking for.
I'm even searching for individual items and I still can't find it that easy. But maybe I haven't tried hard enough.
Well, I think if you're talking about general arbitrage kind of wholesalers, where you'll find your shower gels and they're, that type of thing. But I think in the way certainly that I do my sourcing for kind of like unique bundles and things like that, I tend to find, wholesalers very, very easily because I'm looking for very specific products, and it's a lot easier to find wholesalers for very specific products, if that makes sense. But if you are talking about arbitrage leads or anything like that, the one we certainly recommend is onlinearbitragedeals.com, which is a service that Karen runs. It's invite only at the moment. So there is a new version of online arbitrage deals that is going to be coming out soon. But if you post in the group and just say and ask if there is any space for online arbitrage deals.com, then if there's a link, someone will be able to drop that for you there. But I think definitely when you're starting out, because what they do is they give you leads, for stores and retailers that you might not have known about before. So that's why I think that they're fantastic for that option. Right, I'm going to smash through these questions quickly now, because believe it or not, as ever, we're always over the hour. So Gaurav says, evening guys, been waiting for 1.5 months to get approved for ungating, getting ridiculous. What can be done about it? I have an opportunity to source at a good price, but I can't until the approval comes through, just in case.
I've heard quite a few people say that it's taking a little long. Well, I don't know what normal period of time it takes, but
yeah, it's taking probably about 3 times as long. So the application processes they're being super stringent at the moment. So I have heard. So make sure that if you are waiting for ungating, that all of the information on your account is correct. It all matches, because they are rejecting quite a lot at the moment. They're being super fussy. So just make sure. I don't think there's anything you can do to speed it up, unfortunately. I could be wrong. I don't know if you can process the application again. I'm not sure. That will be one to maybe tag Karen in the group and ask the question. Whether or not, if you've already applied, you can apply again to speed up the process. It's something I'm not aware of, unfortunately. Derek says he gets his stoners buying biscuits during the night, so they get the munchies. So he's obviously waking up to lots of sales in the morning. So Darren's watching Evening Darren. Chippo says Bybot Pro is really helpful for flagging IP issues as well. So important. I think that comment was made when we were talking about the pros of Bybot Pro. Gavin says, amazing. Thank you. Sue says, thank you for the reassurance. Matt says, hey, hey, Luke, and hey, Nat. Hey, how's it going? Paul says he may hit the £15,000 disbursement limit or sales threshold, where it seems Amazon asks you to verify your account. I'm just concerned it will happen in November and December, and my account is down for a while. It's not a lot you can do. You know, you can't turn off. You have to just kind of, if it happens, it happens. Don't be scared. Just make sure if you're a sole trader that you know that you can get your UTR number quickly. If you're a limited company, you've got your limited company registration documents. Sometimes, like I've seen people, it happen the next day. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. You can't be worrying about, you know, hitting it during that period of time. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do, I don't think.
Yeah, the cost of entry.
Yeah.
It's the best I can get. Best I can give.
Definitely. So Sean says he's building that unit. Building a unit for Amazon is hard work. If I am getting another, I'm going to pay more and get a big company to do it. Bring on. Oh, you're doing it yourself, Sean. I just assumed that someone was doing it for you. You're actually physically building it yourself. God, that would make a good vlog. Maybe a guest vlog on Mr. FBA or something, that or Secret Wealth we can get.
Like, it's about 20 or 30 Instagram things. You know, I don't watch them all because I'll be there all day. But
really? Do you know, I'm not on Instagram. I always say I'm not cool enough for Instagram, so I'm not on Instagram. I really need to pull my finger out and get myself on Instagram, I think, because everyone always says,
I don't really post it anymore. Well, I was going to at one point, but I just kind of stopped. But I follow a couple of, you know, just follow sort of. It's quick. You know, there's very quick little snippets. You can just see what people are getting up to. Maybe like behind the scenes. You know, there's a lot of Amazon sellers that you don't really hear about on Facebook, but if they post the odd thing here and there, you get to see what they're working on in the background. It's just like ideas as well. You know, you get ideas. I use it for that.
Well, I shall try and upgrade my coolness and I have got an Instagram account. But I don't use it. It's like 2 pictures on there. I think one of me and one of Indiana or something like that. So yeah, maybe I need to pull my finger. Hey, maybe we'll do it more as the Elite Sellers Academy. Maybe we can get ourselves an you know, an Instagram account on that basis. We can do that. So actually, I think I've already registered it. So yeah. Right. Indra's joined us. Evening, Indra. I hope you are well. Well, that's the end. And do you know what? I think we pretty much covered everything tonight, and we're not too much over the hour. Not that we aim to stick to the hour exactly, but obviously Luke's got we're way past Luke's bedtime.
I'm dreaming right now. God, I mean, dream time.
I know I'm going to be singing him a lullaby next. You know, he's going to be he needs to be going.
Half people sleep here because there's a 24-hour McDonald's literally there, and I hear like boy racers and motorbikes, and you know, there's like, you know, people hanging out in the car park and stuff. So so that's like an it's not dedicated to, like, because we don't live too far from a McDonald's, and all the boy racers go down there. It's like, you know, a poor man's kind of Fast and Furious setting, to be perfectly honest. But they all go down the local KFC and McDonald's car park. So it's good to know that it's not just a UK thing. People obviously do it internationally as well. I mean, I should have maybe thought that could happen, and I didn't. There was no thought. I thought, oh, cool, I'm near McDonald's, meaning it should be near the centre, and didn't think anything else.
But I don't think that would cross your mind, because until you mentioned it, I mean, I know it happens because obviously, you know, as you drive past like a late night McDonald's, they've all got their, you know, someone's got their IKEA neon strip under their car or something like that. Sorry, I'm just being a bit mean. You know, the boy racers kind of thing. But yeah, I wouldn't have thought that it would happen in Lithuania.
but it's just definitely. Well, it'd be fine when I can close the window. It's hot at the moment, and I gotta get away.
You'll be all right in a couple of months. You'll be fine once it's cooled down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, evening. Evening. I'll say thank you for joining me. Nikkei says great tips, RE VAT, absolutely. So we've already talked about the best kind of tips for approaching the VAT threshold. And, you know, if you're just joining us now, make sure you go back and have a look, because we talked about that quite a lot this evening. Someone's just said, for some reason, Amazon seems to be counting my items wrong. I always get told I've either sent in additional units or sent in the wrong box. What happens when you exceed the limit of additional units? To be honest, I often think that somewhere along the line, it often writes itself. It may take a little while, but it generally does. I don't know if you agree with that, Luke.
Even if I sometimes submit little invoices or order confirmations to say things are missing, and then once they actually do something, it actually now says they found all the items. You know, like there's little things like that. Like I think it's just that something's not, you know. But yeah, you will find that. So now it's updated. It's apparently they have found, even though it was closed before, saying that all this was lost and wasn't there. You know, sometimes if you just sort of get it, like it was a big order, obviously I wanted to chase it up, but otherwise I would normally leave them, and then I might go back after about a month against all the closed shipments, and I'll just see what's going on. You know, have they rectified it, and sort of, and you can like submit all the confirmations and stuff like that. I would do it in a batch. Like 3, like, you know, if you just see 1 or 2 here and there, it's more hassle than it is potentially if you're sending in a lot of items. So I just do it every month. I'll go over, you know, 10 boxes, send in, literally take a picture of like the super drug order confirmation, you know, and go on and just highlight it on like something. And then normally all the time, every time I do that, it's fine. So you don't think you have to send proof of a special invoice or wholesale. And if they say you have sent in more, well, awesome.
Mind you, we got one the other day. We sent in 6 units, and Matt will have to confirm the details, but they told us that we'd sent in 156 units.
Yeah.
You know,
and they can take it back later, but, you know.
And they saying that they were in one box, and it was a toy, so it was a relatively big item. So, you know, that was some good prepping skills to be able to get 156 of those items in one box, to tell you.
Years ago, is I must have printed off the same shipping label, and stuck it to 2 boxes. So basically, 2 boxes, when they scan it, look like the same box, and they scanned it in, and this is what happened. One of my boxes got overridden. It basically got over. It was overridden, whatever the word is. So whatever was in that box originally did not show up on the system. They just literally go, oh, that shipping label says it should have 40 of this item, and they literally just override it. Override? I'm sure I'm getting it wrong.
Override? No, that's the right word.
2 boxes apparently were the same, even though that box did not have that. You know, it was like loads of Lego, and they just literally just copied and pasted the box that the scanner said it was.
Yeah.
This is wrong. I stuck the same 2 things on, and they were like, no, the system says this. I'm like, okay, cool. You know. Anyway, that was that. I didn't want to go and start another conversation.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, as Luke says, check it after a month. Don't stress yourself out. I often find it pretty much writes itself, you know, throughout that period of time before reimbursements or reconciliation option comes up. So don't stress yourself out about it too much. There are no massive consequences there's no real consequences for that at the moment, so we don't worry about it too much. Just make sure you always follow up and chase any reimbursements that you are due, if you're due any. So Matt says delivery pass should solve the Tesco issue. I didn't think you could still buy them at the moment, but obviously you can. He knows more about that than I do. That is the Trenkika who I was saying about the cost of delivery. So if you order over a certain amount, then you get free delivery. So I think we'll leave it there. Coming up to 8:30. So thank you for joining me, Luke, as always. I hope you enjoy the dulcet tones of the boy racers sending you off to sleep outside.
It's like a lullaby to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. You guys are great. You always make sure that you turn up and you ask us lots of interesting questions and bring lots of interesting debate about Amazon. We will be here next week. It will be our kind of birthday episode. You know, I can't remember exactly what we're doing at this stage, but there will be something. We will have David Breaker, who's going to be joining us soon to talk about kind of motivation and goals and things like that. So we will have him coming soon, as well as we'll be having Karen and Matt, and lots of different people are going to be joining us over the next few weeks. But yeah, thanks for joining me, Luke. Have a good evening and good night, everyone.
See you later.